Hey friends, Rachel Alford here from Cozy Nooks Designs, and today we're going to go over how to make the oversized boxy vest. The oversized boxy vest is a knit piece with a relaxed fit and functional pockets. It will help you achieve a stylish look, but not looking like you tried too hard. It is designed with beginners in mind, so it uses larger than normal needles, so it's a quick and satisfying make. It is made using 3 easy to knit panels and then seamed along the shoulders, sides, and then there's ribbing along the neckband, the bottom cuff, the armhole, and then the top of the pockets. The oversized boxy vest is a free pattern on my blog, and you can get that here. And on there you can see all the sizing options I have. I have it from extra small all the way up to 5X, so you can get your size and find all the details to be able to help you make this. It is also a Lion Brand yarn kit, so you can get all the yarn that you need in the size that you need in the kit, as well as the free pattern. And you should join my newsletter because I will often send out when Lion Brand has coupons or sales going on for their kits. So join my newsletter so you can see that. So let's take a look and see how to make this. These are the materials needed to make the oversized boxy vest. You're going to need Wool Ease Thick and Quick yarn. I use the color Fisherman, but they have lots of different colors you can choose from to make the vest. The amount of yardage, it's best to just look at the blog to figure out what size you're making and then how many balls of yarn you will need for the pattern. There are 9 sizes to choose from, ranging from extra small all the way up to 5X. So it might be 3 balls, 4 balls, or 5 balls of Woolies Thick and Quick. And then you'll also need a US 19 15.0 millimeter knitting needles. I use circular needles. I think these might be 24 inches, but you can use whatever length of knitting needles that you're comfortable with, whether it's circular or not. And then you need scissors, tapestry needle, and buttons. I used 3 buttons for the size medium, and it is 1 1/8 inch buttons for the diameter. To begin, let's start with the back panel. Now I'm going to be making a small little sample mini size, so it's not going to be the same size for any of the pattern or any of the sizes listed in the pattern. I'm just going to be demoing a little sample size so that I can show you the tricky parts so that you can make it yourself. So again, be sure you check out the free pattern on my blog or get the kit as a Lion Brand yarn kit. I'll drop both of those in the description. So I am going to cast on 18 stitches using the long tail method. So I have my slip knot. I measured out what I believe is going to be 18 stitches for my tail. And so now I'm going to cast on 18 stitches. And again, this is just my sample size. So let me make these 18 stitches and then we'll meet back up. To begin row 1, we're going to start by knitting 1 and then purling 1. And that is the repeat for this row. So again, knit 1 and purl 1. So I'm going to do that all the way across, and I'm going to end with a purl, and then we will do row 2 together. Here's my last 2 stitches. So I knit the second to last and then purl the last. That completes row 1. For row 2, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to knit first and then purl. And this creates the ribbing along the cuff of the back panel along the bottom. So I'm going to continue doing this for rows 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll do row 4 together. I finished row 3, so I'm ready to do row 4. Row 4 is just knitting across. So into each stitch, I'm going to knit across, and that's the same for all the patterns. So let me do that with you right here. And you're going to do that from rows 4 through 20. I'm just going to do a smaller sample, so I'm not going to have nearly as many rows as you will. So let's do row 4 together, and then I will do my remaining rows off camera. And then we will do some bind offs for the underarm, because that does happen for some of the sizes. So if that's not your size, then just ignore that part. You can skip ahead, but I do want to show how to bind off. So there is row 4, and then to begin row 5, you just knit across again. So I've done my rows for the body. I've done this portion. You can see on the full sample here. And so now some of the sizes say that we need to bind off a little bit on both sides for the back panel. So let me show you how to do that with binding off. So I'm just going to say that I am making, what size is that? Extra small, small, medium, large. I'm going to bind off well, let's do 2 stitches. I'll bind off 2 stitches on either side for the back panel. So to bind off, I begin by knitting 1, knitting 2, taking the first stitch that I knit and passing it over the second stitch. So I've dropped 1 stitch. I need to drop another one. So I need to knit this next one and then drop that stitch over the stitch I just knitted. So you can see we've bound off 2 for the underarm section, and now we're going to knit all the way across for this row here, and then we will bind off at the start of the next row. So let me knit all the way across. So this row stitch count drops by 2 since I bound off by 2, and then the next row stitch count drops by 2 as well. 1 more stitch in this row. There we go. Now we're ready to do the next row, my last bind off row for the underarm. So there's 1 knit, do it again, and then pass this first one I knit over the second one I knit, and now I've bound off that first stitch. So now I need to knit the next one and pass this one over. So I have 2 stitches now that I've bound off. So you can see what it looks like on this side. Right here, these 2 have been bound off. And so let me show you what it looks like once I get to the end of this row. All right, I have 2 stitches left. Let me just show you what it looks like when I knit these 2, and then turn so you can see it. So that's what it looks like. It just makes the armhole go in a little bit. So that is how you do the bind off section for this pattern. For the next section, most of the sizes have you do some armhole shaping. So let me show you how to do the armhole shaping. So depending on the row or the size you're making, the row could be, if you're making a small, the row might be 21, medium 21, large row 23, extra large 23, 2x 23, 3x 23, 4x 23, and 5x 23. I'm probably not going to go through each row like that again. Just look at the blog, I promise. It will be much easier. Just highlight your size that you're making so that you can follow along. To do this row, you're going to begin by knitting 1. And then we're going to slip, slip, knit. So we're going to slip, slip, and then knit those 2, only 2, together. And that's a decrease. And then it says we need to knit across to the last 3 stitches, and then we will do our knit 2 together over the third and second to last one. So these 2 stitches right here, we are going to knit 2 together. And then we're going to knit 1 in that last stitch. And then the next row is just knitting across. So let's do that together. Just knitting across for our garter stitch design. I need to get my cable. My cable's a mess right now on this circular knitting needles. I need to release it and make it relax because it's getting kind of difficult to work with it. All right, 3 more stitches, just knitting 1 into each of them. And that's how you complete this row. Some of the sizing has you do the 2 rows we just did together again, 2, 2, 3, 3 more times. Look at the pattern for what your size does, but then let's talk about the next part. So this is what my little mini sample's looking. Little tiny. This might be able to fit a doll. I don't know. We'll see how it works out in the end. So now for the last portion of the back panel, we're just going to work straight up. So for the rest of the rows, depending on what size you're making, how many rows you do, we're just going to knit across. So let's just do 1 row together. For my small sample, I'm going to do 8 rows, but that's not enough for a regular size. So I'm going to do that off camera, my 8 rows, and then we will jump back and do left front together. We'll start at the ribbing bottom and then do some shaping again. So just working across 1 stitch knit at a time. And that is how you do it. So I'm going to do the remaining rows off camera and let's do the left panel together next. For my small sample size for the left front panel, I'm going to start by casting on 10, just making a small little panel here, and then we will do the ribbing portion together, which is the same that we did for the back panel, but we'll do the front panel together. And then for the right one, you'll have to do that one by yourself. Okay, there's 7, 8, 9, and 10. So to begin row 1 for the left front, I'm going to knit the first stitch and then purl. Again, that's the repeat. So we're going to knit and purl. Continuing all the way across, we're going to do that repeat of knitting 1 and then purling 1. And then when we get to the end of this row, rows 2 and 3 are the same with knitting 1 and then purling 1. So we're going to do that I'm going to do that off camera. And then rows 4 through 20 are just knitting across like we did for the back panel. So I'm going to do that off camera as well. So we'll meet back up for the bind off rows. Okay, so here is what my sample is looking like. I'm ready to do the bind off for the underarm. But as I was making this, I just had the best idea. What if I could get my cat to wear this little cardigan? It's kind of like, it's almost his size. I wasn't even trying to make it. That's about the size of a cat. Stay tuned for that. I don't think this is gonna work. I think he's gonna hate this. Come here, Louie. No, this way. I have something for you. Oh my gosh. For you, Lewis. It's for you. Welcome to the office. Do you like your look? So to do the bind off edging for some of the sizing, let me show you again how to do that. So I'm going to bind off 2 on the edge here. So first I'm going to knit 2, and then I'm going to pass the first stitch over the second, and I just bound off 1 stitch. So to bind off my second stitch, I need to knit and then pass the second stitch over the third stitch. So that just bound off 2 stitches, and then I'm going to knit across. Let me do that. For the next row, we're just going to knit across as well. Since this is only one of the panels, we're not going to bind off on the start of the next row. So there's the end of this row. The next row, you're just going to knit across. There we go. Knit across. And for some of the sizing for the next couple of rows, it asks you to repeat the next 2 rows a number of times. So let's go through those 2 rows together, what it is. So for the slip slip knit row, we begin by knitting 1, and then we're going to slip, slip, and then knit those 2 stitches that we just slipped. We're going to knit them like that. So we just decreased by 1, and then we're going to knit across for the next, the end of this row. Let's do that. And then the next row, we're going to just knit across. And those are the 2 rows that some of the sizing has you repeat. But for this sample, I'm not going to do a repeat of the slip slip knit and then the knit row. Let me show you what it looks like. So you can see we have our bound off edges and then our slight shaping that we've made here. So we are ready to knit across. To orient yourself in the pattern where we are to the point where it says all sizes, rows 21, 23, 27, 29, 31, 31, 35, 35, and 37 through XX for knitting across. That's where we are in the pattern. So I am going to knit for my small sample. I am going to knit 5 rows, but check your size to figure out how many rows you knit to get the correct length for your vest. So after I've done these 5, we'll meet back up together. All right, I've done my 5 stitches and I'm almost out of yarn. I've got this yarn tail, so I'm just going to add in a new skein right now, but just pretend like I am not doing that. Don't get confused by that. All right, so I am ready to do knit across to the last 3 stitches, knit 2 together, and then knit 1. So this is how we're going to get our neck hole here. So knitting across to the last 3 stitches, and that's when I will do my knit 2 together. So here's my last 3 stitches. I'm going to knit 2 together, knit 1, and that completes that row. The next row, we're going to do our slip slip knit for the neck shaping. So to begin, we're going to knit 1, and then we're going to slip, slip, and knit those 2 slipped stitches. And then knit across to the end of the row. And for my pattern, my small sample, my mini cat vest, I am going to just do 1 more row, which is knitting. The pattern does have you repeat the last 2 rows that we did do together a number of times, so check that. And then the pattern also has you knit this last row that I'm doing a number of times depending on how many, what size you're making. So that is how it looks. You can see the slight neck shaping right here. So that is how you do the left panel. So I already started my right front because it's the same as the left front for this portion. So I just didn't go over it with you guys, but I did my 3 rows of ribbing and then my rows 4 through 20. I've obviously not done 20, but my smaller sample size for the body on the underarm part. And now I'm to the underarm shaping. Some of the sizes have to do a bind off row. So we're to the bind off row. I'm going to show you how to do that on this right panel. So to begin the bind off row, we're going to knit across the entire row, and then the next row we're going to bind off. So let me get to the end of this row and then we'll start the next row. All right, so this next row, row 22, we're going to bind off 2 stitches. So it's the same that we've been doing. So I'm going to knit 2, take that first stitch and pass it over that second stitch. Knit the next stitch and pass it off over that stitch, and then knit across. And that completes the bind off section for this panel. The next section that we are going to go over is the shaping section. For some of the sizes, they have shaping. So let's do that together. So for this row, we're going to knit to the last 3 stitches and then knit 2 together and then knit 1. So once I get to the last 3 stitches, oh, I am already there. Okay. So I'm going to knit these 2 stitches together like this, and that decreases and gives me the underarm shaping that I want here. So for this row, I'm just going to knit across, and these 2 rows are the repeat needed for the different sizing. So check your size to see how many times you repeat the 2 rows we just did. Now that we've done our underarm shaping, we're to the point in the pattern where it says to knit across for some rows. And depending on the size that you're doing, we'll say how many rows you need to knit across for. For this small sample size, I am going to knit across for 5 rows. So I'm going to do that off camera. I'm to the point where I need to do my neck shaping. So now I need to do my slip slip knit row. So to begin that, I need to knit 1, and then I need to slip, slip, and then knit those together. Knit across to the end of this row, and then the next row is going to be my knit 2 together. So I need to knit until I have 3 stitches left, and then I'm going to knit 2 together. So here are my last 3 stitches. So I'm going to knit 2 together and then knit 1. Now you can see what the neck shaping looks like. You can see it's going in this way to make room for the neck. And there's my underarm shaping. So the pattern says to repeat the last 2 rows for the desired size that you're wanting. I'm not going to repeat that anymore because I need to have enough stitches to be able to show you how to seam the shoulders. So I'm going to stop there and just do 1 more row of knit. And I realized that I have not shown you how to bind off yet for the back panel or the left panel. So let's do that together. Let me show you how to bind this off. So you're going to knit, knit, and then like how we bound off before, you're going to pass that first one over, and then you're going to knit the next one, pass that first one over, again, pass it over. You can see how we're binding off at the top here. So we have 1 more stitch. We're going to do it like we would normally. So now we only have 1 stitch left. To bind off this last stitch, you're going to pull that tail through and create a knot. And then snip the end, and you can continue pulling it through. And that's how you secure that last stitch there. Here are what our 3 panels look like, my little mini sample cat size. So now I'm going to seam the shoulders. You can see the neck shaping right there. I'm going to seam the shoulders right there. And then after I do that, I'm going to seam right here and here. So I have separate video tutorials, the one for this one and for the one for this one. And I will put both of those videos down in the description so that you can easily access that if you're not sure how to do mattress stitch for shoulders, and then how to do a mattress stitch on a vertical garter stitch. So you can look at those videos if you need to. And then let's talk about, I'm gonna seam this off camera, and then we'll talk about how to pick up for the armholes. Now we need to pick up the sleeves. You can see I've done it on this side already. And then I also did round 1 of the sleeves, which is just a ribbing, simple ribbing of knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. So let's do the armhole pickup together. And then the neck is basically the same as the armhole, so we won't go over the neck together. It's the same thing where you're going to pick up these stitches along the neckband here, and then you'll do 1 round of ribbing, knit 1, purl 1, and then bind off. So let's start by picking up the stitches for the armhole. We're going to start in the center of the underarm, and so you can see my seam is right here. So that's my center, and I have 2 bind off edges for this sample size that I made. Your size might not have that, so just be aware of that. So I'm going to insert my hook under both stitches, and then I'm going to drop a loop here, and that's 1 pickup. Now into my second bind off for the underarm. There's my second. Now we can do pickup about 1 stitch for every garter row. Sorry, every 2 garter rows. So I like to do it in between the bumps. So I'm going to pick up my first stitch right here, and then my next stitch is going to be right here. So picking up my first stitch, then picking up my next stitch. I'm just doing this all the way up and around the armhole. So I'm just going to continue around picking up 1 stitch for every 2 rows of garter. You can see that's what I'm doing right now. Make sure that you look at the pattern to see how many stitches you should pick up so that you can do it correctly. I am going to stop and not do the bottom half pickups just because I need double pointed needles to do the bottom half pickups. When I did this other underarm, it's not gonna video very well. So let's pretend that I have picked up all the way around and I have made it to my starting pickup stitch, and so I'm ready to knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So pretend that this is my first stitch down at the bottom of the underarm. So down here, okay? So I'm going to knit and then purl, knit and purl. And so yours is going to be in the round, not in the row like I'm doing right now, just to clarify. But I want to demonstrate this to make sure that you understand how to do this. Okay, so after you've done all the way around, pretend that I've gone all the way around now. Now it's time for me to bind off. So again, not in a row. Mine's in a row, yours is going to be around. But let me just show you how to bind off in the rib pattern. So you are going to knit the knits, purl the purls. Oh, whoops. But you're going to bind off. There we go. And then purl the purls and bind off. Very simple. Knit, bind off, and purl, bind off. And you do that all the way around for the end of the round. Like I said, the neckband is the same way. So I'm going to show you how to do the pockets now. To do the pockets, you're going to start in to where you want your pocket to be. I'm going to say like right here. So I'm doing it right above my ribbing band, and I'm going to place the pocket right there to start. And then I'm going to pick up stitches. So look in the pattern to see how many stitches you should pick up. For my small sample size, I think I'll probably do 4. I think that might be a good number. So you can see there are my 4 stitches that I picked up. Let me grab my needle, and you're just going to garter stitch or knit every row until your desired height, and then you're going to put a ribbing at the top of the cuff, or at the top of the pocket. Top of the pocket. That's an alliteration one, it feels like. Okay, so there's my first row. Here's another row. I don't know how tall I should make these mini pockets. Let's look after this row. My cat can fit all of his treats in it. Yeah, let's say that's good. Let me do the cuff, or the ribbing. Let me show you how to do the ribbing. Knit and purl, knit and purl, and then we're going to bind off in that same pattern of knitting and purling. So this first stitch is knit, the next stitch is purled, and then we bind off. I'm going to grab, you can even grab, this yarn's so big you can use your fingers to do it if you want. And then knit this one and bind off, purl this last one, bind off. Then we need to secure our last stitch here. So let me get that secured. There we go. And then we fasten off. Here's our cute little pocket. You can see it there. And so I'm going to seam the sides down like this, and so then it's open on the top here. So anyway, that is how you make the oversized boxy vest. Thanks for joining me today. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you liked it. I am Rachel from Cozy Nooks Designs, and make sure that you give it a thumbs up, comment if you have any questions, and subscribe to my channel for future free patterns and tips.